Hello, my dear friends. Come sit with me for a while. I'm Margaret, and I've lived 70 winters on this beautiful, complicated earth. Today I want to share something with you. A story that still makes my old heart ache, even after all these years. It's about love, betrayal, and the hardest lesson I ever learned. Sometimes protecting what matters means losing what you cherish most. Pour yourself some tea, get comfortable, and let me tell you about the day my grandson told me I was no longer welcome in his life. Have you ever been pushed away by someone you raised with your own two hands? If you have, then you'll understand every word I'm about to say. My name is Margaret Eleanor Price. I'm 70 years old now, but this story begins when I was 63. Back then, I lived alone in the old farmhouse my grandfather built in 1889, right here in Willow Creek, Tennessee. The house sat on 47 acres of rolling hills, apple orchards, and memories that stretched back 4 generations. My husband Thomas died 12 years before the events I'm going to tell you about. Cancer took him slowly, painfully, but he left me something precious. Our land, our home, and a silver locket with a letter inside that I wouldn't understand until much later. After Thomas passed, it was just me and my grandson Daniel. Well, Daniel wasn't technically my grandson by blood. He was my daughter Sarah's boy, but Sarah died giving birth to him 29 years ago. So I raised Daniel myself from the moment he took his first breath. His father, he disappeared before Daniel was even born. Couldn't handle the responsibility, I suppose. So it was me, Thomas, and baby Daniel in that big farmhouse. We were a family. A small one maybe, but we were enough. Do you know what it's like to raise a child twice in one lifetime? First your own, then theirs? Changes you. Daniel grew up running through those apple orchards. He learned to climb trees before he could ride a bike. Every fall we'd make cider together, and every spring we'd plant new saplings. Grandma Maggie, he'd say with dirt on his face and wonder in his eyes, "Do you think these trees will be here when I'm old like you?" I'd laugh and ruffle his hair. "They'll be here long after both of us are gone, sweetheart. That's the magic of planting things. You're giving a gift to people you'll never meet." He understood that then. Or at least I thought he did. When Daniel turned 18, he went off to college in Nashville. Business administration, he said. He wanted to make something of himself, and I was proud. My grandson, the first in our family to get a degree. But college changed him. Or maybe it just revealed parts of him I'd chosen not to see. He started talking about investment opportunities and property values instead of harvests and seasons. He'd come home for holidays, and instead of walking the land with me, he'd stay inside typing away on his laptop. "The world's different now, Grandma," he'd tell me. "You gotta adapt or get left behind." Maybe he was right. Maybe I was just a stubborn old woman clinging to the past. But tell me, is it wrong to love where you come from? Everything changed when Daniel met her. Cassandra Monroe. He brought her home for Thanksgiving when he was 27. The moment she stepped out of his car, I knew. You know what I mean, don't you? That gut feeling that tells you something's not right? She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Tall, elegant, with honey blonde hair and a smile that looked like it came from a magazine. She wore high heels to a farm. Who does that? But Daniel looked at her like she'd hung the moon and stars herself. "Grandma Maggie, this is Cassandra," he said, beaming with pride. "We've been dating for 6 months. Isn't she amazing?" Cassandra extended her hand, Her grip was cold and quick. "It's wonderful to finally meet you, Margaret," she said, her eyes already scanning the farmhouse behind me. "Daniel's told me so much about this place." That pause before place. I heard it. I felt it. Like our home was some kind of curiosity. A museum piece rather than a living, breathing part of our family. Over dinner, Cassandra asked questions. Lots of questions. How many acres? What's the property worth? Have I ever considered selling? Developing? "This land could be worth millions," she said, cutting her turkey with surgical precision. "You're sitting on a gold mine, Margaret. Have you ever had someone look at your life and see nothing but dollar signs?" Daniel defended her, of course. "Cassie's just being practical, Grandma. She works in real estate development. She knows about these things." I smiled politely and changed the subject, but that night I couldn't sleep. I went to my jewelry box and took out the silver locket Thomas gave me before he died. Inside was a tiny photograph of us on our wedding day and a folded piece of paper. I'd read Thomas's note 100 times, but that night it felt different. Felt like a warning. "My dearest Maggie," the note read, "if you're reading this, I'm gone. And if I'm gone, you're alone with all the weight of this place on your shoulders. Listen to me carefully. The land isn't just dirt and trees. It's our story. It's every dream we planted, every sacrifice we made. Don't let anyone, not even family, make you feel small for protecting it. Some people will see value in what we built, but others will only see profit. You'll know the difference. Trust your heart. I love you always, Thomas." I clasped that locket around my neck and haven't taken it off since. If only I'd understood sooner what Thomas was trying to tell me. 6 months later, Daniel called with big news. "Grandma, Cassandra and I are engaged. We're getting married next spring, right there on the farm. Won't that be perfect?" My heart should have leaped with joy, but instead it sank. Still, I forced enthusiasm into my voice. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so happy for you." And I was happy, truly. I just wasn't happy about her. But who listens to an old woman's intuition, right? We're just set in our ways and suspicious of change. That's what people say when they want to dismiss us. The wedding planning began immediately, and Cassandra took control like a general commanding an army. She had opinions about everything. The ceremony should be in the south orchard. No, wait, the north field has better light. We need a tent. No, 2 tents. One for dinner, one for dancing. She hired expensive planners, florists, and caterers, all without consulting me. "Don't worry, Margaret," she'd say with that practiced smile. "Daniel and I are handling everything. You just relax and enjoy." But it was my land, my home, and I was being treated like a guest at my own grandson's wedding. Do you know what it feels like to be invisible in your own life? To be patted on the head and told to just relax? 3 weeks before the wedding, Cassandra came to visit alone. Daniel was working late, she said. She wanted to have a chat, woman to woman. We sat on the porch with lemonade and she got straight to the point. "Margaret, I need to talk to you about the future. Daniel's future. Our future." I sipped my lemonade and waited. She continued, "This property is beautiful, but it's wasted potential. After Daniel and I are married, we'd like to develop it. Boutique hotel, maybe, or luxury event space. We've already talked to investors. My blood ran cold. You've talked to investors? About my land? Cassandra's smile tightened. Well, technically, Daniel owns half, doesn't he? Your husband left it to both of you in his will. She'd done her homework. Thomas had left Daniel 50% ownership, but with a crucial clause. I maintain full control and decision-making authority for as long as I lived. Daniel would inherit completely only after my death. I have full administrative control, I said firmly. Nothing happens here without my approval. Cassandra's mask slipped for just a second, revealing something cold underneath. Then the smile returned. Of course, Margaret. I'm just thinking ahead. Aren't you tired of maintaining all this by yourself? Wouldn't you like to rest? Enjoy your golden years without all this burden. Have you ever had someone call your life's work a burden? How did that feel? I stood up, my hands trembling. This land isn't a burden, Cassandra. It's my legacy. And it's not for sale, not for development, not for anything. When I'm gone, Daniel can do what he wants. But while I'm still breathing, this farm stays exactly as it is. Cassandra stood too, her face now stripped of pretense. You're being selfish, Margaret. Daniel could have a real future instead of waiting around for you to die, so he can finally live his life. Those words hit me like a slap. Before I could respond, she grabbed her purse and headed for her car. I hope you'll reconsider, she called over her shoulder. For Daniel's sake. That night I called my lawyer, Harold Winters. He'd been the family attorney for 30 years. Harold, I need to review Thomas's will. Every single clause. We met the next day, and Harold confirmed what I already knew. You're protected, Margaret. Daniel can't sell, develop, or modify the property without your written consent, notarized and witnessed. Thomas made sure of that. But Harold looked worried. What's going on, Maggie? I told him everything. About Cassandra, about the investors, about being called selfish and a burden. Harold sighed heavily. I've seen this before. When property and money are involved, people change. Even family. Could someone you love really betray you for money? I was about to find out. The wedding day arrived, bright and beautiful. I wore a lavender dress, my mother's pearls, and the silver locket. I'd spent the morning helping set up chairs and making sure the catering tent was properly arranged. By noon, guests started arriving. 200 people, most of them Cassandra's friends and business associates. I recognized maybe 20 faces. Daniel looked handsome in his tuxedo, nervous but happy. When he saw me, he hugged me tight. Thanks for everything, Grandma Maggie. I love you. Those words would haunt me later. The ceremony was lovely, I'll admit. Daniel and Cassandra exchanged vows under the old oak tree where Thomas and I used to sit and watch sunsets. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," everyone cheered. I clapped politely, my heart heavy with dread I couldn't explain. The reception began immediately after. Dinner was served, champagne flowed, and the band started playing. I sat at a table near the back, watching Daniel and Cassandra dance their first dance as husband and wife. They looked perfect together, like they'd stepped out of a fairy tale. But fairy tales don't prepare you for what comes after, happily ever after. Do they? Reality does that. Around 8 o'clock, I noticed Cassandra whispering urgently to Daniel. She kept gesturing toward me, her face twisted with anger. Daniel looked uncomfortable, shaking his head. But she persisted, grabbing his arm, pulling him aside. I knew something was wrong. My stomach knotted. 10 minutes later, Daniel approached my table. His face was red, his jaw clenched. Grandma, can I talk to you? Privately. We walked to the edge of the tent, away from the music and laughter. What's wrong, sweetheart? I asked, touching his arm. He pulled away. Why are you wearing that dress? I looked down, confused. This dress? It was your great-grandmother's. I wore it to honor. Cassandra says it's too flashy, Daniel interrupted. That you're trying to steal attention on her day. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Daniel, this is a lavender dress. It's not even close to white. How could I possibly? His voice rose. She's upset, Grandma. Today is supposed to be perfect for her, and you're making it about you. People were starting to stare. The music seemed to fade into the background. My voice came out as a whisper. I would never try to upstage Cassandra. I just wanted to look nice, to honor our family. Has anyone ever twisted your good intentions into something ugly? It breaks something inside you, doesn't it? Daniel's face hardened in a way I'd never seen before. You need to leave, Grandma. The words hung in the air like poison. What? I couldn't process what he'd just said. You need to leave. Now. Cassandra doesn't want you here anymore. My legs nearly gave out. Around us, guests had stopped talking. They were watching, phones out, recording this nightmare. Daniel, my voice cracked. Please don't do this. I'm your grandmother. I raised you. His eyes, my grandson's eyes, were cold and distant. I know what you did, Grandma. I know you refused to help us with the property. Cassandra told me everything. You're being selfish, choosing dirt over your own family. Tears streamed down my face. I didn't try to stop them. This isn't about choosing dirt, Daniel. It's about protecting what your great-great-grandfather built, what your mother loved, what... He cut me off. Get out. The words echoed across the reception. 200 people, silent, staring. Some looked shocked. Others looked away, embarrassed. But no one defended me. No one said, Daniel, that's your grandmother. You can't talk to her like that. They just watched. I looked at Cassandra. She stood behind Daniel, her hand on his shoulder. Her face a mask of fake concern. But her eyes? They were triumphant. She'd won. I turned and walked away. Through the crowd of silent guests. Past the band that had stopped playing. Across the lawn I'd mowed that very morning. Have you ever been erased from your own family? It's a death, but you're still breathing. I got in my truck and drove back to the farmhouse. Just half a mile up the road. I could still hear the music restart, the party continuing without me. I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd taught Daniel to bake cookies, where we'd done homework together, where we'd laughed and cried and lived our lives. The silver locket felt heavy around my neck. I took it off and opened it again. Reading Thomas's note by the dim light over the stove. You'll know the difference, he'd written. Trust your heart. My heart was shattered, but it wasn't wrong. I'd seen who Cassandra really was. And I'd seen what she'd turned my grandson into. That night, I made a decision. If they wanted a war over this property, they'd get one. But I wouldn't fight with anger or revenge. I'd fight with the law, with truth, with the same quiet strength that 4 generations of my family had used to build this place. The next morning, I called Harold. I need to change my will. Immediately. We met that afternoon, and I dictated my terms with a clear mind and steady voice. When I die, the farm will not go directly to Daniel. It will go into an irrevocable trust that cannot be sold, divided, or developed for 50 years. The trust would be managed by the County Historical Society. Daniel could live on the property if he wanted, but he couldn't profit from it. If he tried to challenge the will, he'd lose everything. Every single acre would go to the state as a nature preserve. Harold looked at me over his glasses. Margaret, are you absolutely sure about this? You're essentially taking away Daniel's inheritance. I nodded. I'm not taking it away, Harold. I'm protecting it from her. If Daniel truly loves this land, he can live here, care for it, and pass it to his children one day. But if all he sees is money, then he doesn't deserve it. Do you think I was wrong? Or was I the only one who saw clearly? Word got back to Daniel within a week. I don't know how. Harold swore he didn't tell anyone. But small towns have big ears, and someone at the county office must have talked. Daniel showed up at my door, angrier than I'd ever seen him. He didn't knock. He just barged in, Cassandra right behind him. What the hell did you do, Grandma? He shouted, waving papers in my face. You changed your will. You're giving my inheritance to strangers. I stayed calm, sitting in my rocking chair, hands folded in my lap. I'm not giving it to strangers, Daniel. I'm ensuring it stays protected. Cassandra stepped forward, her mask completely gone now. You vindictive old woman. You're doing this to punish me because you never wanted Daniel to be happy. I met her eyes. No, Cassandra. I'm doing this because I finally understand what you are. You don't love my grandson. You love what you think he can give you. She lunged toward me, but Daniel caught her arm. For a moment, I thought he might defend me. Instead, he said, "She's right, Grandma. You are vindictive. You're a bitter old woman who can't stand to see me build a life that doesn't revolve around you and this dusty old farm." Each word was a knife, but I'd lived through worse pain. Losing Thomas. Losing Sarah. I could survive losing Daniel too, even though it would leave me with nothing but memories. If that's what you believe, I said quietly, then there's nothing more to say. The will is legal and binding. When I'm gone, you'll have choices to make. But those are your choices, not mine. Daniel's face turned purple with rage. You'll regret this. We'll fight you in court. We'll prove you're senile, incompetent. Well, he stopped, realizing what he'd just threatened. To have me declared mentally unfit. His own grandmother. The woman who'd raised him, fed him, loved him unconditionally for 29 years. When family becomes enemy, where do you find your strength? I found mine in the truth. They left, and I didn't hear from Daniel for 8 months. 8 long, silent months where I lived alone in that big house, talking to myself and Thomas's memory. I tended the orchards. I repaired fences. I watched seasons change from my porch, the silver locket always around my neck. Harold called occasionally with updates. Daniel's lawyers tried to challenge the will. No grounds. They tried to argue undue influence. No evidence. They're running out of options, Margaret. I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. During those months, I learned something about loneliness that I'd never understood before. It's not the absence of people. It's the absence of people who once mattered. I could have made friends, joined clubs, stayed busy, but none of that would have filled the Daniel-shaped hole in my heart. Then one cold February morning, I saw a car coming up the drive. Not Daniel's. This was a sedan, official looking. Two people got out. A man in a suit and a woman with a briefcase. They introduced themselves as representatives from social services. Mrs. Price, we received a complaint about your living situation. May we come in? My hands shook as I made tea. They asked questions. Lots of questions. How was my health? Did I take medications? Could I remember what day it was? Did I ever feel confused or disoriented? I answered everything honestly, knowing exactly what was happening. Daniel and Cassandra were trying to have me declared incompetent so they could take control of the property before I died. After 2 hours, the woman closed her briefcase. Mrs. Price, you seem perfectly capable to me. However, we're required to recommend a full medical and psychological evaluation, given the complaint's seriousness. I nodded. When? Within the next 2 weeks. They left, and I called Harold immediately. They're doing exactly what you warned about. Harold's sigh was heavy. I'll arrange for the evaluation with Dr. Patterson. He's independent, fair, and his assessments are bulletproof in court. When they try to erase your dignity, you fight with everything you have. I went to war quietly. Dr. Patterson examined me thoroughly. Cognitive tests, memory assessments, physical health checks. 3 full days of evaluation. When he finished, he sat across from me in his office, a kind smile on his weathered face. Margaret, you're sharper than people half your age. Your memory is excellent, your reasoning is sound, and your judgment is perfectly intact. There is absolutely no evidence of dementia, diminished capacity, or incompetence of any kind. Relief washed over me like a wave. Can you put that in writing? Already done, he said, handing me a sealed envelope. That's your copy. The official copy goes to the court and social services. No one can question your mental state now. Armed with Dr. Patterson's report, Harold filed a cease and desist against Daniel and Cassandra. If they continue to harass you or make false claims about your competency, we'll pursue legal action for elder abuse and defamation. For a while, things went quiet again, but the silence wasn't peace. It was the eye of the storm. The real blow came on a Tuesday in late April. Harold called, his voice shaken. Margaret, I need to tell you something, and you need to sit down first. My heart dropped. What is it? A long pause. Daniel and Cassandra are divorcing. It's messy. Really messy. The story came out in pieces. Cassandra had been having an affair with one of those investors she'd mentioned, a wealthy real estate developer from Atlanta. When Daniel found out, everything exploded. She'd never loved him. She'd married him for access to property, to potential wealth, to opportunity. When she couldn't get the farm through me, she'd started looking elsewhere. The developer offered her a job, a partnership, and eventually, a relationship. Daniel was just a stepping stone she no longer needed. Have you ever watched someone you love suffer for their own blindness? It's agony, even when they hurt you first. 3 weeks after I heard about the divorce, Daniel showed up at my door. It was early morning, barely sunrise. He looked terrible. Unshaven, hollow-eyed, 20 pounds lighter. When I opened the door, he just stood there, tears streaming down his face. "Grandma Maggie," his voice broke. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I didn't speak. I just opened the door wider and let him in. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd shared thousands of meals. He told me everything. How Cassandra had manipulated him, isolated him from me, convinced him I was the problem. How she'd controlled their finances, their social life, every decision. How he'd lost himself trying to make her happy. "She never loved me," he sobbed. "She loved what she thought I could give her. And when you protected the farm, when she realized she couldn't have it, I became worthless to her." I reached across the table and took his hand. "You were never worthless, Daniel. You were manipulated. There's a difference." He looked up at me with those eyes I'd known since he was a baby. "Can you ever forgive me? For what I said? For what I did at the wedding? For trying to have you declared incompetent?" The words hung between us. Could I forgive him? Should I? I thought about Thomas's note, about protecting what matters, about knowing the difference between people who see value and people who see profit. Daniel had been blinded, but his eyes were open now. "Forgiveness isn't something you ask for once and receive forever," I said carefully. "It's something you earn through changed behavior and time. Can you be that person, Daniel? Can you be the grandson I raised, not the man Cassandra created?" Sometimes forgiveness is the hardest gift we give, but also the most powerful. Don't you think? He nodded, wiping his face. "I want to try, Grandma. I want to be better, to be worthy of this place, of you, of everything." I squeezed his hand. "Then you'll stay. You'll work the farm with me. You'll learn again why this land matters. Not for money, but for meaning." And he did. Daniel moved back into the farmhouse that day. We worked side by side, just like when he was young. We pruned trees, mended fences, planted new saplings. Slowly, painfully, we rebuilt what had been broken. Not just the property, but our relationship. It wasn't easy. Some days I'd see him and remember his words at the wedding. "Get out." The echo still hurt. But other days, I'd see him kneeling in the dirt, planting apple seeds, and I'd see my grandson again. The real one. 6 months after Daniel came back, Harold visited with news. "Cassandra's married to that developer. They live in a penthouse in Atlanta. Apparently she's pregnant." Daniel took the news quietly. We were sitting on the porch, watching the sunset. "I hope she's happy," he finally said. "I genuinely hope she found what she was looking for." I studied his face. "Do you mean that?" He nodded. "I do. Because I found what I was looking for. I just had to lose everything first to see it." He gestured to the land around us. "This. You. Family that's real, not transactional. I'm grateful, Grandma Maggie. Even though the path here was hell, I'm grateful." That night, I took off the silver locket and opened it one more time. I read Thomas's note, and this time, I understood it completely. The land wasn't just dirt and trees. It was a test, a way to reveal people's true character. Cassandra failed. Daniel almost failed, but he'd found his way back. I reread the final line. You'll know the difference. Trust your heart. I had trusted my heart, and it led me through the darkest valley of my life. But it also led me back to my grandson. When everything is stripped away, what remains? That's the only thing that was ever real. 2 years have passed since that sunset conversation. Daniel is 31 now, and I'm 70. My health isn't what it used to be. Arthritis makes mornings harder, and I tire more easily. But I wake up in my own home, on my own land, with my grandson in the next room. Last month, I called Harold again. I want to change my will. One more time. Daniel was with me when I did it. I wanted him to hear every word. The farm will go to Daniel completely when I die. No trust, no restrictions, no conditions. He can keep it, sell it, develop it, whatever he chooses. It's his. Daniel's eyes widened. Grandma, are you sure? After everything I raised my hand to stop him. I'm sure. Because you've proven something to me. You've proven that you understand what this place really means. Whether you keep it or not isn't the point anymore. The point is that you know its value beyond money. And that's all I ever wanted. Harold prepared the new will, and we signed it together. When we finished, Daniel hugged me tight. I'm never selling, Grandma. Ever. This land will pass to my kids, and their kids just like it should. I smiled. We'll see. Life has a way of changing our plans. But whatever you decide, I'll support you. Because I trust you now. That trust, earned through pain and rebuilt through action, means more than any legal document ever could. That's what I've learned in 70 years. Trust isn't given, it's built. And sometimes it has to be demolished and rebuilt stronger than before. I still wear the silver locket. Sometimes I take it out and read Thomas's note. And I swear I can hear his voice in the words. He knew this would happen. Maybe not the specifics, but he knew that wealth and property bring out people's true nature. He knew I'd need guidance when that moment came. And he was right. I think about Cassandra sometimes. I heard she had twins, a boy and a girl. I wonder if she's happy, if she ever thinks about Daniel, if she regrets the path she chose. Part of me wants to believe she's miserable, that karma caught up with her. But the truth? I hope she is happy. Not because she deserves it, but because my happiness doesn't depend on her suffering anymore. That's freedom, isn't it? When you stop needing revenge because you've already won the only battle that mattered. The one for your own soul. Daniel and I sit on the porch most evenings now, watching the sun set over the orchards. Sometimes we talk. Sometimes we just sit in comfortable silence. Last week, he asked me a question that made my heart swell. Grandma, when I have kids, will you teach them everything you taught me? About the land, about family, about choosing what matters. I looked at this man, my grandson, who'd been lost and was now found. Of course I will, sweetheart. That's what grandmothers do. We pass down the stories, the lessons, the truth about who we are, and where we come from. And that's why I'm telling you this story today. Because somewhere out there, maybe you're facing your own Cassandra. Maybe someone in your life sees you as an obstacle instead of a person. Maybe you're being called selfish for protecting what you love. If that's you, hear me clearly. You are not wrong. Standing firm for your values, your dignity, your legacy. That's not selfishness. That's strength. And yes, it might cost you relationships. It might leave you alone for a while. But loneliness with dignity is better than company with shame. What will you choose when your moment comes? The comfort of surrender, or the pain of standing firm? I've lived 70 years, and here's what I know for certain. People will disappoint you. Even people you die for. Even people you raised. But disappointment isn't the end of the story. Sometimes it's just the middle chapter, the dark part before the dawn. Daniel disappointed me profoundly. He hurt me in ways I didn't know I could be hurt. But he also came back. He changed. He grew. Not everyone does that. Most people double down on their mistakes, blaming others instead of looking inward. Daniel looked inward, and he didn't like what he saw. That self-awareness saved him. It saved us. As for me, I'm at peace now. Real peace, not the fake kind you convince yourself you feel. I wake up in my farmhouse, tend my land, and love my grandson without condition but also without illusion. I see him clearly now, his strengths and his weaknesses. And he sees me the same way. That's real love. Not the fairy tale kind that ignores flaws, but the hard-won kind that acknowledges them and chooses connection anyway. The silver locket still hangs around my neck. I'll wear it until the day I die, and then I'll pass it to Daniel with a note of my own. I've already written it, sealed it, put it with my important papers. It says, "My dearest Daniel, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But before I left, I want you to know. I'm proud of you. Not because you're perfect, but because you chose to grow. The land is yours now. Do with it what you will. But remember this. Property fades, money disappears, but who you are echoes through generations. Be good. Be kind. Be strong enough to admit when you're wrong. That's the legacy that matters. I love you forever. Grandma Maggie." When I close my eyes for the last time, I'll do so knowing I protected what mattered most. Not just land, but truth. Not just property, but principle. And in the end, isn't that what we're all trying to do? Leave the world slightly better than we found it. Leave our children slightly wiser than we were. Leave a legacy that means something beyond bank accounts and property deeds. So my dear friends, that's my story. The story of how I lost my grandson to greed, and how love, real, tough, uncompromising love, brought him back. I hope it touched something in your heart. I hope it reminded you that you're not alone in your struggles. We're all fighting battles nobody sees, carrying burdens nobody acknowledges. But we're stronger than we know. I'm 70 years old, and I'm still learning, still growing, still discovering who I am beneath all the roles I've played. Mother, grandmother, widow, farmer, fighter. We're never too old to change our stories. We're never too late to stand up for what's right. If my story helped you today, would you share it with someone who needs to hear it? Someone who's being pushed around, called selfish for having boundaries, made to feel small for standing firm? Share it. Let them know they're not alone. We're a community here, all of us grandmothers and grandfathers of the world, holding wisdom in our wrinkled hands and fire in our aging hearts. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Until next time, take care of yourselves. And remember, the silver locket you wear might be invisible, but its message is eternal. Protect what matters. Trust your heart. Love fiercely, but wisely. God bless you all.